Hey, Shaka.
All right, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, everything's good. Everything's good.
You changed up the colors
Yeah, just for the day.
just for today.
Yep.
Yay. So, Shaka, how was your weekend?
Um, it was okay. I mean, still here, so I really don't have no complaints.
Got it. So, tonight we were discussing, talking about all of these police brutality cases going on all over the US, as well as just mass incarceration reform, period.
Okay.
I think that was our
Um,
topic for last week, but I got sick. I think I had the flu, and so it did not work for me to be on camera last week.
right, right. That's understood. That's understood. So, let's go ahead and get started.
Let's get started. You know, so one of the things, I'm at Morehouse School of Medicine, getting a master's degree in master's in administrative justice involved care. So with reading the books and watching the videos, certain things I've been seeing, like I didn't realize that the jails and prisons and institutions, like who determines that you get health care, is it ends up being the sheriff or the wardens. And I didn't realize that almost 50% of people, sometimes numbers as high as 50%, end up dying or having problems based off of um, justice involved situations where if they weren't in jail or incarcerated, it could be avoided. And I didn't
Well,
realize that the
go ahead.
numbers were
Excuse me.
okay. I was saying that I didn't realize the numbers were like 1 out of 9 black males have been incarcerated or will be incarcerated as compared to like 1 out of 110 white males. Like the numbers are ridiculous. Like I knew they were ridiculous, but it's another thing to read about them, to see citations, reports, to know that people have been studying this for 20 years and the numbers are still what they are. And mass incarceration ain't nothing but modern day slavery. So, I'll let you take it away from there, Shaka Saint Kofa.
Oh, okay. As always, good to be on. And giving honor and blessings to all of our people, all of our ancestors, and past, present, and future, um, as well as those who are behind enemy lines in these um, dungeons we call prisons and detention centers, correctional facilities, county jails, and uh, USPs or whatever they try to formalize being captive.
Yeah.
They when it comes to healthcare, it's based on, like you said, when the warden, the administration, and basically it boils down to your conduct. So if you are irritant to the institution or political prisoner or someone who has a undesirable sentence or charge, you are the last to receive health care, and it's at the bare minimum. I've seen people with severe illnesses that basically go untreated, and this is why uh, tuberculosis and HIV/AIDS and all sorts of other diseases run the infirmaries are uh, deplorable. They're using diabetics are using used syringes, and um, you know you have to have a certain amount of money in most institutions to even go on sick call. I know in Maryland you have to have at least $6 to even go see the nurse. You have to have that on your books, you
Yeah, that's
know. So
because what I didn't know it before this degree either. It's because while you're incarcerated, they'll give you Medicaid, but you have to pay the copays while incarcerated. So when people work, they're usually working to pay, not usually, but a lot of times they'll work for like 5 years sick, just trying to come up with the copay money.
well, and once again, that depends on your status in the institution, whether you have Medicaid or not. Um, that determines on who gets treated and who doesn't get treated, who gets treated first and who gets treated last. Usually, the jailhouse informants and snitches and kitchen workers and people that are doing outside extreme rigorous labor primarily at the top of the list, just for the purposes to keep them healthy enough to continue to work and to, um, be productive in the prisons because they have a, the 13th Amendment is true to the nth degree, and so you really have no rights. Um, I've worked in infirmaries and I have literally carried men that were power weightlifters down to 80 and 90 pounds because they haven't seen sunlight in maybe 6 months to a year, and to wheel their beds to the bar so they can receive sunlight and um, changing diapers and um, IV feeding other fellow inmates that the IVs need to be cleaned out. Um, all types of tubes are contaminated. Um, you hear the moaning and groaning of people in pain from everything from um, just diabetes to pancreatic cancer, and um, there's no chemo, no type of serious uh, treatment, because once you are not an asset to the production of in terms of prison labor, you really are useless.
But you know
And
what the irony is, Shaka, of that? Like if you go to prison and you have an acute or chronic illness, so being out in the free world, diabetes might cost you $30,000 a year in medical coverage to treat. The prisons and jails have a line item budget, usually for like 100,000 or more, to be able to treat you and care for you. They just choose to utilize that money somewhere else, especially when they're privatized prisons. So someone can have diabetes and receive terrible treatment, if any. Sometimes they don't start getting seen until 10 years in and stuff like that. I have a friend who her son is incarcerated, and he like almost died 3 times his first week because they weren't administrating his insulin the correct way. So how do you expect, if you go to jail, the sheriff, the same sheriff who may have advocated for you to be arrested and charged and everything else to the DA, how do you expect them to be the one to decide on what kind of medical care you get? And if you're in prison, you got to deal with the COs and the warden and people like that when we know that there's police corruption.
exactly, and that goes back to uh, whether you are irritant in the institution. If you are one that is teaching knowledge, and you're preventing and keeping the units from being involved in all types of rapes, riots, stabbings, hunger strikes, um, you're looked at as an irritant, because see, prison thrives off of those things. They get funding for riots, and then when it's time to do their taxes, they can say that 9 fire extinguishers were broken, 35 windows, the hunger strike they lost, $100,000 in food, and they get all this money back, but it never goes back to the prison. This is why when you go in a real penitentiary, the warden's office is an entire floor. It's a suite, shower, bed, $10,000 couch, $5,000 chair, $10,000 desk, books, cigar box, um, and so many other things. And then they are the ones who make sure or control the drug trade that goes on in the prisons as well, knowing that these guys that may be, or males or females that may be IV drug users, that they make sure that they have used syringes that's already been used in the infirmaries and stuff like that, and this is how this stuff is spread. So it's a they really don't care, because once you're sick, they're pushing for your demise so you can be replaced.
Well, most people who are justice involved end up with chronic illness, or when it's time for them to return to society, they end up with a whole new set of issues then as well.
Exactly, exactly. So I've seen a lot of brothers come home uh, extremely ill, extremely plagued with so many different illnesses from being in those prisons, and people forget that the for people like us, black people, the steel and concrete, that sucks all the calcium out your bones, and this is why you see a lot of people that have been in for a while. You may see them come home much smaller than you anticipated because of the calcium depletion that steel and that concrete, and it also calcifies the pineal gland. This is why they keep black people away from water. If you go and if you look around, all beachfront property, all oceanfront property is predominantly owned, and the land is owned by whites. Because if when we all go to the beach, when we all go to the pools and stuff, our people have a wonderful time in the water swimming, because it concentrates the pineal gland and it makes us think, with the sun beaming on us and we're in ocean water, it really rejuvenates the spirit, the pineal gland, and the energy level. This is where sea moss comes from, So if you take people away from there and you put them in an environment where there's constant buses, cars, smog, subways, construction going on, uh, as well as being in all this concrete and steel 24/7. That's it's a melanin. It's also a pineal gland depletion, which creates um, turmoil within ourselves. And this is where you see all this rage and hatred, and this crime takes place. That plays a integral part in that we don't see, because we're trained to just look at the outcome of every situation. So, and it starts in prison, and then a lot of our brothers and sisters take that same mindset into the prison, and then it's enhanced in that particular environment. And so,
Well, I was going to say, in addition to that, a lot of our brothers and sisters make below the poverty level prior to ever going to prison. So when they go to prison, they already have been deprived of health care for years. And to return to the conversation as well, how do we expect these police officers? I'm not saying all police officers are bad, and I'm not excluding the ones who are. So, how do we expect these police officers to treat us fairly and accordingly when they're the ones making the decisions and the ultimate decisions on our health care once we're incarcerated?
well, that's self-explanatory. It's who we are. You see Just about everything that goes on in prison goes on outside of prison. Primarily, with the slave patrol that we commonly known as the police, who live by a blue code of silence, and and then a lot of them are inbreds. A lot of them been, generational police. Their father was police, their grandfather was police, their great grandfather was the police, and their great great grandfather was captain of the slave patrol. And so all of that energy has been passed on, and you see that clearly today in the profiling, because this is where it starts in the elementary schools. Elementary schools, medication in elementary. After elementary, they usually drop out ninth or 10th grade, because no one's taking the time to address a lot of social skills and help them academically. They become frustrated because they're purposely left out, and it's designed for them to hit the streets. And so when they run into other people, other young men and women with those same issues, they all click together, and this is what you call a gang. And so they take that terror and just inflict it on the community, because they feel as though the community, family, school, everybody has let them down or has not spent enough time with them to enhance them to be competitive, not just in school but in the job market. Further their academic education and careers and things of that nature. So this is why a lot of them, once they go inside, when the smoke is cleared and they have a little bit of tranquility and stability, they begin to um, re-educate themselves. This is why you see most of the brothers come home. They either have GEDs or some even have degrees. But this is what they were destined to do. This is what was in them from the beginning. So the police play a major part into making us feel as though we're not nothing. And so this is why we are abused, murdered, wholesale, stereotyped, profiled, and even at the police force, when they go to the gun range, the target has a baseball hat on, and it's a black person, and they're trained to kill. It's kill, then answer questions later. You know, kill the nigga, and then let's go to internal affairs and get a pass.
You can't use the ninja word
Oh,
shot.
okay. Okay.
We'll get
Well,
our show bad for a week.
okay. Nevertheless,
But I
but
agree.
this is
I agree
this
with
is the
everything you said.
mindset that they have. This is the mindset that they have.
I agree.
And there's no retaliation. Everybody wants to fill out paperwork and okay, let's write this person, let's write this person. You know, this has been going on too long. It's at what point do we make and take the next step? Because it's already predicted there's going to be a protest. We're going to talk about the prison situation. It's just going to be talk, paperwork. We push the paper to people who have are in position to make changes, but they have been trained not to, because they don't want to lose their prestige and their toys. So they're going to go along to get along, but still sell us false hopes and false dreams. So, it takes the grassroots, it takes the people that's willing to get on the front line to move a little bit past and change the methods to make these changes. I'm not with the protesting. I'm not with walking with signs and yelling and, walking till my knees hurt, and then they'll tell us to go home. or everybody's going to jail, or at least one, a couple of people are going to go to jail, and then everybody goes home because that's something that they fear too. So, you have a whole bunch of people saying, "Yeah, I'm pushing legislation for this, and I'm writing this, and I'm writing this, congressman." It's just a lot of times
It's just
pushing
rhetoric. It's just people talking.
we're pushing envelopes that get shoved under the desk. And then, and then you have these politicians, and if you're not part of a certain agenda and you're not in a certain circle, then though the little favors that you may want justice for, they go undone because you're not plugged in to certain circles, which I'm not. I'm not plugged into nobody's circle. I don't want to be in nobody's circle, and I never will, because I'm not somebody that can be controlled. I
I'll
know
say
how
it
it
like
is.
this. Yeah, I've been blackballed from many circles. When I was running for office, after I ran for office, I can say that that was real. I can say it was real, real. When my bank manager froze my bank accounts for 3 months, my business accounts wouldn't disclose how much money was in them. Didn't know how much money I had in them. Didn't know how much, but I just knew I didn't have access to them for almost 90 days, because I paid a personal Discover bill through my business bank account. So, you know, I I know that my apartments, I was living in an apartment running for city council, and the election was November 2nd. They weren't going to renew my lease past October 31st. So little things like that is what they do. And then when I went and actually went and got like rental assistance because I couldn't pay any bills, I couldn't access any money, then they used that against me when I was running for office. Like, oh, do we want someone in office who needs assistance with paying an electric bill? Hell yeah, that bill was like $400. I ain't had the money because I needed the money I had for the campaign. People miss that conversation. People get so caught up in their world of what they think it should look like, could look like, and they forget we are human beings out here. And when you're trying to make a difference in the judicial system, it ain't just the white man, it's also brown and black people. It's people who look just like us who are the main ones blackballing me. It's people who look just like us who know where my children are who refuse to have a conversation about it. It's people who look just like us who understand how they torture us in jails and prisons, but because they make money off of it in kickbacks, they'll allow it to continue. They won't report it, they won't do anything. They won't investigate it because they're profiting. There are people who look just like us who are profit pimps. They're worse than the preachers in the pulpits. They're profit pimps and politicians. Period.
Correct. I agree with you 100%. And you have those who look like you and I who are have made agreements and have made pacts with the opposition and the wall of evil to ensure that the masses of our people remain in oppressive, deplorable, povertized situations. And so it's whoever's good at verbalizing really is just conning people and selling them false dreams and false hopes to um, give them the impression that things are going to change, and things will never change until some more. I'm not going to say drastic. Some more measures are taken. My methods have changed over the years, because everybody can talk. Everybody has this good mouthpiece. Everybody has all this dialogue. Everybody have all these degrees, and they plugged into this person and plugged into that person. But we are not plugged in. Period. We're not plugged in at all. There's still sex trafficking, child trafficking, uh, massive fentanyl deaths and drug overdoses, and foster care babies are being, taken advantage in every way, and Juvenile crime is at an all-time high. Um, it's not a food shortage, but they're trying to control the food because they want to ration it out to those who they feel that are in compliance with this new social structure, this new social infrastructure. And
But you know
so,
what, Shaka? I think in regards to the conversation of what you were just saying, I think that what's missing is people who stand up for something. So, for instance, when you were talking about the riots and protests, when you start threatening jail, then people pipe down. They ain't ready to do that one. What's missing is when you start talking about public policy and things like that. Everybody wants to write some public policy, but they can barely spell their name. What's missing is people saying, "Oh, I want to get a degree," because they heard you getting a degree. Now they getting a degree, and their degree don't even make sense for what they're trying to do in the community. It's like originality, self identity, self esteem, self respect. All of those key things are missing in our community.
people do things to qualify themselves to be in certain circles that are contrary to the mission that we're on in terms of liberation.
Yeah,
And so, once again, the good talking preacher, that even though he's hustling, he can still talk his way into getting another, $40 out you on Sunday.
yeah,
It's the same way now. And we're the only people that our so-called leaders are handpicked by the opposition and given to us to lead us.
yeah,
You have entertainers and rappers and these all types of actors and actresses and sports athletes who are being given to us as leaders and representatives of our struggle, in which none of them have a struggle. None of them have a struggle, but in exchange for notoriety, fame, and some toys,
yep,
um, they will sell us false dreams, keep us entertained, keep us laughing, keep us going to the comedy shop, keep us buying drill music, keep our babies drilled up, keep them smoked up, you know, um, train them to with a perverted curriculum to pervertize themselves, as a form of population control as well, and to turn them, against their parents and turn them against everyone that is a reflection of them. And
yeah,
so, and this is the result. Just like, for instance, if you were to go into a school auditorium and what they call it is an assembly, and you're the spokesperson there, and they'll say who you are and what you represent. Uh, Most of the students wouldn't pay you no mind, but if they have somebody that's an athlete who's laid up with more women than Elvis Presley and can snort, a whole mountain of coke, then because he's on TV dunking the basketball over a minivan, then he is the hero.
right,
He is the hero, or she is the hero. Someone who's bleached his skin and have self hatred. Have someone from another culture stand side by side as a spouse. You know, and our young girls and you know teaching them not to be real women. You hear rap music with females talking about they don't cook or clean. I'm gonna show you how I got this ring, and you know, um, that type of garbage. That contaminates the mind of these young girls. I mean, and now you have this rash of these these mama boy dudes, you know, taking the lives of their babies' mothers and all of this type of stuff, um, because lack of leadership and guidance. You can ask any child, 90% of the children, you can ask them, and they can see their mother and father crawling in 16 hours a day at work, barely able to fix dinner, barely able to, just barely making it, but they'll ask them who is their hero. They won't say the man or woman that's providing food, shelter, and clothing and doing any and everything to provide a decent life for the child. They would say somebody on TV that they will never know, that doesn't care anything about them, and they will, and this primarily goes to the so-called grown males, who they can tell you every name of every team and how many championships the NFL won this team and how many touchdowns Tom Brady threw. But if you ask them, you know, how many bills did Adam Clayton Powell get passed? If you ask them what's their great great grandmother's name, it will sound like a foreign language to them. And then they wonder why the children, their thought process in their minds are warped. And this is what leads to prison. Because you got thousands and hundreds of thousands of babies that are never coming home as we speak. They're never coming home. They've been lied to by a public pretender that they can get the life sentence back in 10 years. They'll be back in court, knowing they're not never coming back home, knowing that they may end up losing their life in prison or be violated and then become a predator and develop a savage mindset. So, this is, I'm trying to be politically correct. And this is why, when I go live, I go in because, certain languages is for certain arenas, certain dialogue and certain diction is for certain arenas. So I'm trying to, give the sanitized version of our struggle and of our pain and of our suffering that we endure on a daily and consistent basis. And we have to stop trying to um, wear success and look successful. Who's the best dressed slave? Picking cotton. You got a Louis Vuitton shirt in the cotton field picking cotton. So you're better than the rest of the people that are picking cotton, but you're still picking cotton.
Amen. Amen. And Shaka, what you were saying about hold on, I'm trying to get the exact language. You were just before talking about picking cotton. Um, I done lost the language. I had something to comment on.
Just take a
Lost.
minute. Take a minute. You got time. You have time.
You were saying that basically that there's a lack of role models. I could change it up, and to sum it up, there's a lack of role models. There's models of what we quote unquote aspire to be, and half of that is through assimilation. Because for us to get to a certain level, it's no different than when someone calls you for a job interview. Hi, my name is Shantae. Like you want to change up and everything else instead of my name is Shantae. You know what I mean? Like all of that goes out the window. Hello, my name is Shantae Louise McLaughlin. See Louise, like everything goes out the window because everybody's trying to assimilate instead of being who they are. And no one's embracing their blackness, their brownness, or anything that means that you're a person of color because everyone is assimilating.
Right. because you put your morality in your back pocket to do what it takes to fit into and to plug into that particular circle. It's not hard. It's not hard to figure out. And so, um, you're more respected when you're more respected when and they respect you more when you're you. You know, regardless what the situation is, because personally, I just can't fathom, being that way, for 8 hours a day, and then you know, uh, cut my morality light back on, once I leave out of a building, and then I
But
have
you
to
know what?
get.
It's not just a morality light. Like for instance, I remember when I used to work in corporate America, but I was a size like 2. So my suits were all Anne Klein, Ann Taylor, white designers, BCBG, designers that weren't made for an African American body. So I say it like that because when we straighten our hair, when we make sure that our makeup looks a certain kind of way, when we put on our clothes, we are making when we add colors like the blonde, you know what I'm saying? Well, that's a falsehood because there's plenty of black people with blonde hair. But when we assimilate, when we need these long, straight, silky Hawaiian silky weaves that come to our ankle, when we do all of these things, we're assimilating. We're saying there's something wrong with who I am. There's something wrong with the color of my skin. There's something wrong with the way that I'm built. So I need to look like you. When we get ribs removed, when we diet until we dying to eat, all of this stuff, it's assimilation because there's no level of embracing who you are designed to be through God, the higher power, the universe, your goddess within, whoever you choose to worship. It's all assimilation.
Exactly, exactly. So, it's just self-hatred. We've been trained to hate ourselves to such a degree, that we have chosen, and we're willing to change and transform who we really are, just to fit in. And to fit in for what? Some things that are temporary. The house, the 3 cars, the maid, all that stuff is temporary. All
I
of
don't
it.
know about that. I appreciate Ashley, my maid, when she does come because I got a heap of clothes right now. With being in school, managing kids, managing work, managing a job, managing a company. Like sometimes needing that maid to come in a couple of hours gives me time to go to sleep, which is important. And that ain't so that it sounds good. That's because it becomes a necessity because it's 24 hours in a day. And when you are trying um, to reproduce yourself or clone yourself, sometimes something as simple as having someone help out for 4 hours out the month really does do some justice for you because that's 4 hours of sleep that I'm getting that I normally can't get. She do
Okay.
more in 4 hours. She can accomplish in 4 hours what might take me a week to do.
Okay.
And it might cost me about $100 for
Yeah,
that
but
4 hours.
at some point you're gonna have to do it
No,
because
man.
not
No, man, because I've done it. I've done it. And it's like, it's no different than you get to a certain point, you got to hire an assistant to help you with your emails or to help you with this. With growth, I mean, and sometimes it gets tight financially. And do I want to have mounds of clothes sitting around? Do I want to have dishes in the sink? Do I want to have Tupperware with no lids on them throughout the cabinets? Do I want to have uh um food that's spilled? Because I got teenagers and a 5-year-old, they spill stuff in the fridge all the time. And even if they wipe it up, it ain't the same as someone going in there with the cleaning products and doing what they're supposed to do. So I'm saying all of this to say one other part is sometimes we got to allow people to do what they do well. And if that's something that she does well, it's gonna cost me $100. Guess what? That might be me not going out to dinner one time out the month. That might be leaving those shoes in the store. That might be passing on getting their hair done. It's like we can afford whatever we want to afford. And if I choose to have a clean house instead of me doing it when it can be done, to bring in someone to employ someone. It's no difference than if I was hiring a, like my accountant, my black accountant told me that the amount of money that I spend in food, I really should hire someone, put them on payroll to do meal preps, because with all of the incentives for hiring people and for growing your business, it will make me more money to hire someone, a chef, and have her on payroll. So it
Okay.
really is knowledge is power in these kinds of conversations. You can keep doing all the hard work, the heavy lifting, or look into other resources to be able to clone yourself, get what you want out of life, and keep it moving, because there's so much money out there for having employees, actual employees, not W-9. I made the mistake of having W-9. So, anyways, that's a business conversation, something totally separate. But I'm saying that to say whatever we want, we can have, except for when it comes to this judicial system. They don't give a damn about my PhD, about me having a maid, about me having someone to cook a meal. All they care about is I'm black, period.
Well,
And sometimes it might be too educated. Sometimes it's like she run her mouth too much. She could be a threat. She black, period.
okay. Well, welcome to life, because that's what it consists of. That's exactly what it consists of. You know, sacrificing. Um, you know, doing something you don't want to doing things you don't feel like doing. Everybody needs help. Everybody needs some type of assistance in some form. Maybe that's your way. Um, that's not my way. You know, um, I'm on a journey where I'm trying to fight for liberation, and of course I'm going to travel. I'm going to acquire a few things that are enjoyable and reward myself with some things. But at the same time, I'm not gonna get off of my mission, because each day for me is painstaking, but I'm here to feel pain, because a lot of us, great people, great people that have put in 100 times more work than I have, that have set the pattern and the trend and the legacy for me personally to follow. And so I understand this mission, and I know that I have to be self-supporting, self-sufficient. You know, sometimes we have to wear different hats. We have to do so many different things and be so versatile. That's what makes us warriors. That's what makes us real men. That's what makes us real women. When we're able and we're willing to go that extra mile, no matter how painful it may be, no matter how tiresome it may be, getting up, doing the work that I do, even when I get off, truck is loaded with food. I still got to feed people. I still got to do drug referrals to our people who are sicker and sicker each day out here. And I'm talking about we just had two fentanyl deaths from some people that I know. Um, and this cycle of death is wiping us out, with the agendas that they have set up for our destruction. And so this is why I say, I'm always fighting to penetrate the walls of evil. But once again, going back to what you said, the biggest fight is the people that look like us, that are the gatekeepers and guarders of those who pass the laws of tyranny, imperialism, oppression, depression. The people that look just like you and I, that sell us dreams and lies, and they lie to us every day. You have the selection coming up, not election, selection coming up, and it's based on who can fit the agenda of the oppressor. Who can fit that agenda? Anybody that goes against the grain is not going to get elected. It's just that simple because we don't have that type of support from the have-nots because most of our people have been worn down with false promises, false hopes. We've gotten deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole, of hopelessness and helplessness. And so our people don't know who to trust because they've heard it before. They've heard it over and over and over again. The first black this, the first black that, and they're worse than the original white this and the original white that because they're following that same agenda. It's just, white supremacy in blackface, and so, I call these people out on my show. I call them out by names because I don't like when people say the white man. Which white man? Which white organization? Name the five top executives and the treasurer of the Federal Reserve. Who owns the World Bank? You know, who heads the monthly meetings at the Carlyle Group, the Cato Institute? Who runs this? Because that's emotion, the white man, you know, it's us too. It's the front linemen, men and women, especially in Atlanta, the front linemen that sell all these hopes and dreams that it's going to change is coming this time. Change is coming. Yay. Yay. Vote for her, And then 6 months later, mass incarceration is skyrocketing.
It's the same thing 6 months
The
later
same exact thing. So
or worse.
anybody like yourself and others, well, I don't, to be honest, I don't know any other females that make noise like you in Atlanta. I know some up here and in Baltimore and other areas, but Atlanta, and I'm not gonna go into that anyway, but that makes the type of noise that needs to that's rattling the cages. We have to rattle the cages. Now when legislation doesn't work, what are we gonna do? We're gonna write over again? Get somebody else to write it again? Things have to be taken a little more seriously. We got to rally up the have-nots, the people that don't have nothing to lose. Let's get them up, get them standing upright again. And you'd be surprised what they will do when you can give them um, that type of hope and be that beacon of hope for them and clean them up, stand them up, educate them, put them back in school. Get some trade schools going, get a breakfast program going for the kids, get a dinner program where they can do homework without having to be in these drug infested homes. They can have an hour to do their homework, have a decent nutritional meal, take an hour to play their PlayStation and transport them back home. You know, things that are taking place like that because see, these things are not mentioned because the people that give us this false hope, they don't live, their neighbors don't look like you and I. So they have lost all touch with the reality of the struggle. They've lost
Yeah.
all touch with the reality of the struggle. I like to talk to the people who's struggling to pay rent, who wants to be educated, who you can bring,
Talking
who
to me, Shaka. You talking to me.
well, yeah. Well, I'm talking in the
Don't look
mirror.
like
I'm in the mirror actually, but you know, uh, the day-to-day struggle, you know, opposed to, because I'm not in that circle, I'm not with the Black Caucasians. I don't go to them type of conventions or anything like that where it's supposed to be agenda set, but everybody's talking about who has the biggest swimming pool in their backyard and how many acres that they have and how they're gonna meet each other playing golf. That none of that interests me whatsoever. It's irrelevant to the mission. It's totally irrelevant, you know. And we have to learn to um, not be afraid because really none of us are getting out of it alive. So um we're here. I know I'm setting the trend for future generations because most of the people in our generation have been bought out, sold out, strung out, dug out, worn out, and lied out and cried out. So, um, the few that are far in between, it's imperative that we, um, build a united front on all levels. you know, where you have people doing various things, not just, because one certain situation is not going to cure this. No religion, no ideology, no train of thought, you know, no one person, no one group, no one movement, no one organization can fix this. It's going to have to take a united front. Even when you look at the civil rights movement back in the 60s, which was wild. None of them, you never heard none of them beefing and arguing over who went to school the longest, what school they graduated from, what religion did they practice. They locked arms and stood and dealt with the fire hoses and cattle prongs. They all dealt with that as a unit. They were willing to get out there and do what it took to make that happen. Now we want to be politically correct. We want to internet our way into liberation. We want to put our signs up and beg for reparations because you can clearly see it, how they dim the energy of our people. They'll say the Holocaust, which gives it a high energy, and then when it comes to us, it's slavery. That's a whole different vibration. It's two different vibrations, and so once again, you know, I always, proud of what you're doing. Um, you're one of the few that, I think that has a sincere desire, and a relentless desire to um, see change, and
Yeah.
that counts for a lot, and you're not recognized, so that that's that's when you're putting in work when people act like you don't exist and the slander and all of this type of stuff comes up because that lets you know that you are a threat. Because if you wasn't a threat, they wouldn't even be thinking about you.
Mhm.
So I'm honored to have my hands in this. I've been kicked off, and denied access to so many shows, which is an honor to me. It just lets me know I wasn't raised that way. You know,
Yeah.
I wasn't raised that way. Be yourself, stand up no matter what, win, lose, or draw. Show up, show
Yeah.
up.
Even when I was asleep, I was woke enough to know that right is right, wrong is wrong. Treat people how you want to be treated, like certain little things, certain little principles. And I can tell you, being in a movement is difficult. There's several things that make it difficult. I had one person say because I'm attractive, then it changes the listening of the community when it comes to me. I had someone else because you ain't all the way black, you Puerto Rican and black. I had someone, you light skin, you're this, you're that, you wear your hair like that, you do this like that. It's like they always will find an excuse and a reason to disqualify you or discredit you. And I always say constructive criticism is the enemy to gifts and talents. Because with constructive criticism comes a lot of people missing out on what really matters to them as an individual instead of assimilating to what somebody else wants them to become.
When they say that, that's some real intense, in-depth observation of somebody. You know. I would be proud for. I would be proud to take those licks. But believe me, I'm throwing something back. You know, mine's may be a little more harder, but to for somebody to say, oh, you had to be really under a microscope. Somebody had to really be doing some deep observation just to come up with something as elementary as that.
Yeah, there was the lesbian rumors when I had cut off all of my hair. But what people fail to realize is I got a sew and weave during COVID. And when I took it out, my hair fell out. So it was like all of the different rumors and stories and everything else that'll keep me separate from community. Like, you know, I went out to a rally, protest, demonstration, or whatever it's called a couple of weeks ago. And one of the lead organizers like, what's she doing here? I don't want her here. And you know, it really hurt my heart because it's like, I'm here for the community. We ain't even here for personalities. We're here for the community. If we're here for the common good of the community, then you not liking me or me not liking you shouldn't stop anything. And so it's like when I get those kinds of responses, or it's like it just becomes so much. Like one person don't like somebody else, so they don't lied and said this person said this about you, and they'd have made up chats and text messages, and now I'm mad at the person. And I had to go and say, you know, as a woman, I should have asked you, did you say XYZ about me? Or it hurt my feelings when you said XYZ about me, because that's all you dealing with is some unaddressed emotional shit. You know what I'm saying? Some stuff that really don't matter. Hurt feelings, fuck your feelings, you know? So it's like, are we here? There's an activist, a national activist named Queen, Portia Miller, who always says either we gonna fight each other or we gonna fight the system. And I don't always agree with Queen, but I agree with that statement. We gonna either fight each other or we gonna fight the system. So on that, we at 58:34. I think that's a good place to stop. What you think, Shaka?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. This has been Unjust, and stay tuned. We coming to Roku.
like this.